A young copy editor at Quincy Patriot Ledger made a bold move last week, quitting his job on principle. Jeffrey Dale had argued against printing a racial epithet in a front-page story. When the paper printed it anyway, he packed his bags. Among the stories on the front page of the September 4th edition of the Quincy Patriot Ledger is this story about a man with a gun yelling racial slurs at neighbors. Copy editor Jeffrey Dale was proofreading the story, and all seemed fine until he got to paragraph 5, where these words, quoting a police report, jumped off the page.
I'd never seen that word ever printed.
He ran his concern up the ladder.
I kind of was pleading with the front page editor, telling him, like, you can blame it on me if you want to change it, or I just didn't really feel comfortable printing that word.
But Dale was overruled. Fuming, he packed up his desk and called the managing editor the next day.
I told him that if somebody next week is called a racial epithet or an anti-Semitic epithet or something against women or whatever it may be, are we going to print those words? And he really couldn't give me a straight answer.
But after executives at Gatehouse Media New England weighed in, the online version used asterisks instead of the actual word. Ledger editor-in-chief Greg Mathis told us in part, upon further review among a larger group the following day, we determined use of the word in full was unnecessary and offensive, and we modified it online. Simply put, we were misguided, and we corrected the mistake where we could. For the record, Jeffrey Dale says he is not overly sensitive to bad language. He likes rap music and enjoyed the latest Dave Chappelle stand-up special.
I think there's a difference between art and news.
That's true, but sometimes people say offensive things, and sometimes you gotta print them. You know, Callie, one thing he told me is that he didn't think in print this word should ever appear. So I asked him, what if it were the Secretary of Defense or the President of the United States? I mean, this was, I hate to say two-bit, but this was a very low, I couldn't even believe this was a story for the front page of the Quincy Patriot Ledger. I mean, what's your sense on that? Is it ever legitimate?
No, I have a problem with it, but to your point, I'm thinking, why are we printing this for this ridiculous story?
Right.
Now, if there were, here's how you would have done it, perhaps. If there is a pattern with this guy, he's been there doing it 15 times over several months, this is what he's saying. You know, we have reported on his offensive language before. This is the 15th time. Here's what it is that he said. If you have a policy, and they appear to have in the past have some kind of policy, why aren't you following it? On other occasions, however, they used other language in full as well. So it's unclear what their policy was. But clearly this editor, who had been there a long time, had not seen that. So I don't understand why there was a big fight about it. I really don't.
Well, he claims that everybody else had gone home. You know, the people who made the decisions weren't here to change it.
Yeah, I'm saying, but why was it a big fight about it, even for them to the next day then say, oh, well, now, yeah, we see the error of our ways. You know, I didn't understand why they couldn't have that conversation. These are conversations we should all be having in our newsroom. I think that if the president says something, if certain other high officials, where you want to know, well, what was said, there's a way to phrase it, say, okay, we're going to print some offensive language. Say that. But to me, this was why.
Ridiculous.
Well, this is a topic we talk about a lot in many different variations. Should the mainstream media hold off from showing something or using a word that's or publishing an image or linking to an image that's readily available on the web? Because anything goes on there, right? It's the Wild West. It's the open sewer. And I continue to argue that I agree with Jeffrey Dale, that and ultimately with Mr. Mathis there, that it's not appropriate for a newspaper to print the full word, N dash 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 gets the job done.
What if it's the President of the United States?
You know, is anything lost by not spelling it out, even if the President says it? Will anyone be confused?
Well, we had that debate over the blank whole countries, and a lot of people went with that, including the Quincy Patriot Ledger.
But most of them first did not, and then said, okay, now we want to let you know this is some offensive language. That's what I'm talking about. This was just there in the paper like, you know, any other thing. And he appropriately said this is not right, you know.
Yeah, and this may be just a small thing, but if you want to be accurate to what he said, doing the, blank, 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 most people, at least when I first heard about the story, thought he did he said the word with the ER at the end.
know.
And so
Maybe he did, and it was a Boston
well,
accent.
maybe he did.
What's the difference?
Well, I mean, it isn't.
It is a difference.
There is a difference, but that's for a larger conversation. But I think for the purposes of just clarity to the audience as to what someone said, if in fact he said this word and we were thinking that he said the other
agree.
one, then you have to write out that word to let them know this is what he said, right? And is it a big difference? I think for the audience, for accuracy's sake, you want to quote exactly what the person said. And I came away thinking it was a different word. So therefore, when I saw that and it was printed, I thought that was okay.
I'm not going to say we should never, ever use it under any circumstances. I am going to say it shouldn't have been used in this particular case. There was no reason for it whatsoever. Everybody here has made good points. I'll add one more. One of the things that Jeffrey Dale said was that there isn't a single person of color at the decision-making table when these coverage decisions are made. That is a problem that needs to be addressed as well.
But apparently there was someone there who had a child of color,
an
right?
adopted child of color.
So, I mean, yes, that's not
That
the
does
first.
not.
No, it's not. I'm just saying. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just pointing out facts,
I
right?
understand
I'm saying
that.
there was at least someone there with that doesn't change the
And,
overall.
and some of the others, no African Americans.
Yeah,
and some of them are their best friends.
Best friends.
Right.
Yeah.
One other
Okay.
quick point, with all due respect to the Quincy cops, just because something appears in a police report doesn't make it the gospel handed down
Well,
from Mount
that's
Ararat.
so, because I had the same question about the variation of the word. I thought, now, wait a minute. No offense to you people in Quincy. Everybody speaks with a Boston accent. So it could have been misconstrued as the slang term,
Right.
but maybe it was the real term.
You
How
know,
about
I
just
Either
saying a
way, I don't
violent
get it.
anti-black racial slur?
Exactly.
What is lost?
if a white person's saying it, I don't see how one is better than the other.
No, it's not better, but it's
No.
just a curiosity about
Well,
how,
okay.
how they knew what he was saying.